In one of my recent YouTube videos, I talked about an analysis which suggested the possibility to grow your money 4 times by investing in Manulife US Real Estate Investment Trust. However, I said that the Real Estate Investment Trust would probably have to do an equity fund-raising exercise which would make that claim untenable. Today, I read another analysis but by DBS Research House this time. In the report, DBS said that with gearing at 49.5%, just a little below the 50% limit by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the need and urgency for a capital injection becomes more apparent. I like to remind myself that the 50% limit was allowed because of the pandemic. Could we see the limit going back to 45% regardless, since the stresses caused by the pandemic are eventually going away? This is another reason why we want to invest in real estate investment trust with stronger balance sheets. The proposed sale to MIRI, which would result in the creation of almost 10% more in new units to help recapitalize the real estate investment trust, would dilute the current shareholders' interests. Still, it is unlikely to be enough. More unlikely still is the possibility to 4 times our money. To be sure, MIRI is doing this deal not because it is altruistic. It isn't a charitable organization. It is acquiring a stake in the real estate investment trust and the REIT manager because it thinks it will make money from this deal. It will heavily dilute current investors' interests. It is also buying the REIT manager at what DBS Research House estimates to be 6 times PE ratio, which sounds like a pretty good deal. If it plays its cards right, MIRI should be able to recover its investments in just a few years. Post-acquisition, DBS Research estimates Manulife US REIT should see gearing level reduced to 42.8%, all else being equal. In economics, we always like to say this. All else being equal. That phrase encompasses everything else that could change the picture. In this case, the gearing level could change because the value of the properties held by Manulife US REIT could see significant declines. I remind myself that the average physical occupancy in many of its properties is under 40%. This suggests more tenants downsizing their space requirements when their leases eventually expire. DBS Research is cognizant of this, as they said. Gearing may be stretched if capital values continue to fall again by end of 2023. This may turn out to be true, depending on how the current turmoil pans out with the U.S. commercial real estate space. So, we could see things worsen as soon as end of 2023. Due to this, DBS Research also says that while a gearing level of 42.8%, which is below 45%, which is what Monetary Authority of Singapore allows if interest cover ratio is below 2.5x. This is still not a comfortable level for investors. As such, we take a step further to evaluate if a rights issue should be considered to bring the gearing level a notch lower. With new equity capital raised to bring gearing to a more palatable level of 40%, we believe this will provide sufficient flexibility to defend against further asset declines in the future, which will need an assumed further 20% decline in asset values to bring gearing back to 50%. Taking all this into consideration, DBS Research revised their target price lower to 24 cents a unit. If we go with this projection, we might not be able to 4 times our money, but we could see it grow some 70%. However, if we want to try our luck here, be prepared for a rights issue, which I have said many times before is to be expected. It is almost like Hobson's choice. Not too hard to understand. If AK can talk to himself, so can you.